The mahogany conference table felt cold beneath my fingertips as I took the last empty seat at the far end. My cousins, dressed in their designer morning clothes, didn't even glance my way. To them, I was invisible. Always had been. I pulled my thrift store cardigan tighter around my shoulders, suddenly aware of how threadbare it looked under the harsh fluorescent lights of Harrison & Associates law firm. My name is Marcus. I'm 29 years old, and this is the story of how my family underestimated me for the last time. Before I continue, let me know where you're watching from in the comments. If you've ever been treated like you don't belong at your own family gathering, hit that like button and subscribe. Trust me, you'll want to see how this ends. My grandmother, Vivian Blackwell, had passed away 2 weeks ago. The funeral was quick, cold. My cousins barely acknowledged my presence there either. Victoria, the oldest cousin at 34, sat directly across from the lawyer. Her blonde hair was pulled into a tight bun that probably cost more than my monthly rent. She kept checking her Cartier watch every few minutes, sighing loudly like this whole process was beneath her. Next to her sat her brother, Preston, 32, scrolling through his phone with zero concern for decorum. Then there was Cassandra, 27, filing her nails and smacking gum. These were the golden children. The ones who visited Grandma Vivian twice a year with expensive gifts and fake smiles. The ones who posted photos with her on social media with captions about family values. I visited her every single week for the last 8 years. I brought her groceries, fixed her leaking pipes, sat with her while she watched her soap operas. But nobody knew that. Nobody cared to know. The lawyer, Mr. Harrison, was a distinguished man in his 60s with silver hair and reading glasses perched on his nose. He cleared his throat, adjusting the thick stack of papers before him. The will itself looked ancient, bound in leather, with Grandma Vivian's elegant signature on every page. "Thank you all for coming," Mr. Harrison began, his voice formal and measured. "We are here for the reading of Vivian Blackwell's last will and testament." Victoria leaned forward, her eyes sharp and focused. Preston finally put down his phone. Even Cassandra stopped filing her nails. The energy in the room shifted instantly. This was what they came for. The money, the properties, the stocks and bonds that Grandma Vivian had accumulated over her 78 years. I just sat there, hands folded in my lap, expecting nothing. Mr. Harrison began reading the standard legal language. Declarations of sound mind, revocations of previous wills, appointment of executors. My mind started to drift. I thought about the last conversation I had with Grandma Vivian. She was sitting in her rocking chair by the window, the afternoon sunlight making her white hair glow like a halo. "Marcus," she had whispered, gripping my hand with surprising strength. "You're the only one who sees me as a person, not a bank account." I told her she was being too harsh. That family was complicated. She just smiled that knowing smile and said, "Time reveals everything, sweetheart." I didn't understand what she meant then. To my granddaughter, Victoria Blackwell, Mr. Harrison's voice pulled me back to the present. Victoria straightened in her chair, a small smile playing at her lips. "I leave my collection of vintage jewelry, appraised at approximately $120,000. Victoria's smile widened. She exchanged a triumphant look with Preston. My stomach twisted. I didn't want the jewelry. I just hated seeing them so smug. "To my grandson, Preston Blackwell," Mr. Harrison continued, "I leave my stock portfolio with Pemberton Financial, currently valued at approximately $250,000. Preston actually laughed, a short bark of satisfaction. He leaned back in his chair, hands behind his head like he'd just won the lottery. Cassandra was practically vibrating with anticipation. "To my granddaughter, Cassandra Blackwell, I leave my summer cottage in Lake Holloway, along with all furnishings and contents, appraised value $300,000. Cassandra squealed, actually squealed, clapping her hands together. They were dividing up Grandma's life like vultures picking at a carcass. Then came the silence. Mr. Harrison flipped a page, read something silently, then looked up at me. Just for a second, just long enough for me to notice. "To my grandson Marcus Thornton," he read, his voice slightly softer. I held my breath. Here it comes, I thought, the pity prize. Maybe a lamp, maybe her old recipe books. I leave my personal library, approximately 200 books, and my 1987 Honda Accord. The room erupted in barely suppressed laughter. Victoria didn't even try to hide it. She threw her head back and cackled, the sound sharp and cruel. Preston was grinning ear to ear. Cassandra literally said, "Oh my God, that's so sad." My face burned. The Honda Accord barely ran. The library was full of worn paperbacks and dusty hardcovers. Together they were worth maybe $3,000 if I was generous. I wanted to disappear. I wanted to walk out right then. But something kept me glued to that chair. Maybe it was stubbornness. Maybe it was the memory of Grandma Vivian's hand in mine. Mr. Harrison raised his hand, silencing the room. "However," he said, his voice cutting through the mockery like a blade. The laughter died instantly. "There is an addendum to the will, dated 6 months ago and properly witnessed." Victoria's smile faltered. Preston sat up straight. Cassandra stopped mid-laugh, her mouth hanging open. "An addendum?" Victoria asked sharply. "Why wasn't this mentioned before?" Mr. Harrison ignored her, turning to a separate document sealed with red wax. He broke the seal carefully, unfolding the single page. "This addendum contains specific conditions and additional bequests that Mrs. Blackwell wanted revealed only after the initial reading." The tension in the room was suffocating. I could hear my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. Mr. Harrison adjusted his glasses and began reading. "I, Vivian Blackwell, being of sound mind and body, do hereby add the following provisions to my will." He paused, looking directly at me. "The personal library bequeathed to Marcus Thornton contains, hidden within the pages of the first edition copy of Pride and Prejudice, the deed to my primary residence at 42 Elmwood Drive, fully paid, appraised value $1.2 million. My brain short-circuited. Did he just say what I think he said? Victoria shot to her feet. "What? That's impossible." Preston's face turned a dangerous shade of red. Cassandra looked like she'd been slapped. Mr. Harrison held up his hand again. "Please, let me finish." "Furthermore," Mr. Harrison continued, his voice steady despite the chaos brewing, "the 1987 Honda Accord contains, in a locked box hidden beneath the rear seat, stock certificates for Blackwell Industries, the company my late husband founded. These certificates represent 60% controlling interest in the company, currently valued at approximately $8.4 million. The room went dead silent. You could hear the hum of the air conditioning, the distant sound of traffic outside. My hands were shaking. I gripped the edge of the table to steady myself. "Additionally," Mr. Harrison pressed on, "Marcus Thornton is hereby named primary executor of this estate and trustee of the Blackwell Family Trust, which contains an additional $3 million in liquid assets for charitable distribution at his sole discretion." Victoria's face had gone from red to white to purple. "This is fraud," Victoria screamed, slamming her hands on the table. She wasn't in her right mind. Marcus manipulated her. Preston jumped up, pointing an accusing finger at me. "You poisoned her against us. You're a con artist." Cassandra was crying, actual tears streaming down her face. "This isn't fair. We're her family too." I just sat there, frozen, unable to process what was happening. Mr. Harrison's voice cut through the accusations like steel. Mrs. Blackwell anticipated these exact reactions. She included a provision for that as well. He pulled out another document. 6 months ago, Mrs. Blackwell underwent a comprehensive psychiatric evaluation by 3 independent doctors. All confirmed she was of completely sound mind. She also recorded a video statement explaining her decisions. "Would you like to see it?" The cousins fell silent immediately. Mr. Harrison pulled out a tablet and set it on the table. He pressed play. Grandma Vivian's face filled the screen. She looked tired but clear-eyed, sitting in her living room surrounded by the books I'd helped her organize. "If you're watching this," she began, her voice strong despite her age, "then I'm gone and you're all probably very upset with Marcus right now." Even from beyond the grave, she knew them perfectly. "Victoria, Preston, Cassandra, I loved you. I always will. But love and respect are different things." Her eyes seemed to look directly at each of them. "You visited twice a year. You brought expensive gifts I never asked for. You took photos for your social media but never stayed for dinner. You called on holidays but never on Tuesdays when I was lonely." Grandma Vivian's voice continued, filling the conference room with uncomfortable truth. "Marcus came every week for 8 years. He brought me groceries when my arthritis made shopping difficult. He fixed my broken toilet at 2 in the morning. He sat with me and listened to my stories, even the ones I'd told 100 times before. I felt tears burning in my eyes. I hadn't cried at the funeral, but I was about to lose it now. He never asked me for anything, not once. When I tried to give him money for gas, he refused. When I offered to help with his student loans, he said he'd figure it out himself. She smiled, that soft smile I knew so well. That's why he gets everything. Not to punish you, but to reward genuine love. The video ended. The silence that followed was deafening. Victoria was shaking with rage. Preston looked like he wanted to throw something. Cassandra had her face in her hands. Mr. Harrison spoke into the void. The will is ironclad. Mrs. Blackwell worked with 3 separate law firms to ensure there were no loopholes. Any attempt to contest will result in the contesting party forfeiting their inheritance entirely. He let that sink in. Those items already bequeathed to Victoria, Preston, and Cassandra are theirs to keep, provided they sign the acceptance documents today. If they choose to contest, everything goes to Marcus and the charitable trust. Victoria grabbed her purse. "This isn't over," she hissed at me. "You'll regret this." Preston followed her out, slamming the door so hard the walls shook. Cassandra lingered for a moment. "I hope you're happy," Cassandra whispered, her voice dripping with venom. "You destroyed this family." Then she was gone too, her heels clicking down the hallway. I sat in the empty conference room with Mr. Harrison, my entire body numb. "Are you all right, Mr. Thornton?" he asked gently. I couldn't speak. I just shook my head. He slid a bottle of water across the table. I took it with trembling hands. "Your grandmother was an extraordinary woman," Mr. Harrison said. "In 40 years of practicing law, I've never seen someone plan their legacy with such precision and purpose. She knew exactly what would happen today." I finally found my voice. "She set them up," Mr. Harrison smiled. "She set you free. There's a difference." He gathered his documents and stood. "Take your time. When you're ready, my assistant will give you the keys." I drove Grandma Vivian's Honda Accord home that night. It sputtered and coughed but got me there. I parked outside my tiny apartment and just sat in the driver's seat, hands on the wheel, trying to absorb everything. $8.4 million in stock certificates, a house worth over $1 million, control of a company, executor of an estate. It was surreal. I thought about my cousins, their faces twisted with shock and fury. Part of me felt bad. A tiny part. Then I remembered Victoria's 16th birthday party. I was 11. I brought her a handmade card because I couldn't afford a real gift. She opened it in front of everyone and laughed. "Is this a joke?" she'd said. "Did you seriously make this with crayons?" I'd run out crying while everyone laughed. I remembered Preston's college graduation party. I was working 2 jobs to pay for community college. He was celebrating his Ivy League degree. When I congratulated him, he looked me up and down and said, "Thanks, Marcus. Maybe someday you'll graduate from something that matters." I remembered every Christmas, every Thanksgiving, every family gathering where I was treated like the poor relative. The charity case, the one they tolerated out of obligation. Grandma Vivian had seen it all. She'd watched them mock me, dismiss me, exclude me, and she'd quietly planned her revenge. No, not revenge. Justice. I pulled out my phone and called my best friend Troy. "You sitting down?" I asked when he answered. "Why? What happened?" I took a deep breath. "I'm a millionaire." The next morning, I met with Mr. Harrison at his office to sign the paperwork. The deed to the house was real. The stock certificates were authentic. Everything was legal and binding. "Your cousins have 48 hours to decide if they want to contest," Mr. Harrison explained. "But between you and me, they'd be idiots to try. They'll lose everything." He slid a folder across his desk. "This contains information about Blackwell Industries. It's a mid-size manufacturing company, very stable, excellent management team. Your grandmother was a silent partner for decades. She never interfered with operations." I flipped through the documents. Profit margins, quarterly reports, board meeting minutes. It was overwhelming. "You don't have to do anything immediately," Mr. Harrison assured me. "The company runs itself. But as majority shareholder, you'll need to attend board meetings quarterly." I spent the afternoon at Grandma Vivian's house. My house now. It felt wrong to think of it that way. I walked through the rooms, touching the furniture, remembering. The kitchen where she taught me to make her famous apple pie. The living room where we watched game shows and yelled at the contestants. The bedroom where I'd sat beside her bed during her final days, holding her hand as she slept. In the library, I found the first edition, Pride and Prejudice, right where Mr. Harrison said it would be. Inside, tucked between pages 112 and 113, was the deed. I held it carefully, this piece of paper that changed everything. There was a note attached in Grandma Vivian's handwriting. "Marcus, this house holds our memories. Don't sell it, fill it with new ones." I went to the Honda Accord next, popped the trunk, pulled up the rear seat lining. There was the locked box, exactly as described. The key was taped underneath the driver's seat. Inside the box were the stock certificates, each one signed and notarized. There was also a letter. I sat in the driveway and read it. "My dearest Marcus, if you're reading this, I'm gone. Don't be sad. I lived a full, wonderful life, made even better by you. These last 8 years, your weekly visits were the highlight of my existence. You reminded me that kindness still exists in this world. The money, the house, the company, these are not rewards. You don't need rewards for being a good person. These are tools. Use them to build the life you deserve. Use them to help others the way you helped me." The letter continued. "Your cousins will be angry. Let them be. Their anger is not your responsibility. I raised their parents to value appearances over substance, and they passed that lesson down. I tried to correct it, but old habits die hard. Maybe this will teach them something. Maybe it won't. Either way, you are free from their judgment now." Tears blurred the words. "Live boldly, Marcus. Travel, create, love, build. Don't waste time trying to prove yourself to people who refuse to see your value. You proved it to the only person who mattered, yourself. All my love, always, Grandma Vivian." I folded the letter carefully and put it back in the box. Then I sat in that beat-up Honda and cried. Not sad tears, grateful ones. 2 days later, Mr. Harrison called. "They signed," he said. "All 3 of them accepted their inheritances and waived their right to contest." I exhaled a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. Really? Really? Victoria's lawyer probably explained that contesting would be financial suicide. They got jewelry, stocks, and a cottage. Most people would be thrilled. They're just upset someone else got more. He paused. "Congratulations, Mr. Thornton. You're officially a very wealthy man." I thanked him and hung up. It was over. The legal battle I'd been dreading never materialized. I was free to move forward. That weekend, I packed up my apartment. It wasn't much. Secondhand furniture, boxes of books, kitchen supplies from dollar stores. I moved everything into Grandma Vivian's house, my house. It felt strange walking through those rooms knowing they belonged to me. I kept most of her furniture. The rocking chair by the window. The dining table where we played cards. The quilt she'd made draped over the couch. I added my own touches slowly. New curtains, fresh paint in the guest room, a garden in the backyard. I quit my job at the warehouse. For the first time in my adult life, I didn't have to work just to survive. I could breathe. I enrolled in business classes to learn how to manage my new responsibilities. I started attending Blackwell Industries board meetings. The executives were shocked when I showed up the first time. A 29-year-old in jeans and a button-down holding 60% of their company. But I listened. I asked questions. I learned. Turned out, I was pretty good at understanding how things worked when people explained them clearly. 3 months after the will reading, I ran into Cassandra at a coffee shop. She was with friends, laughing at something on her phone. When she saw me, the laughter died. Her friends looked between us, sensing the tension. I could have walked away, should have, probably, but something made me stop. "Hey, Cassandra," I said. She stared at me coldly. "Marcus? How's the cottage?" I asked, genuine curiosity in my voice. "Fine," she said shortly. "Nice of you to care." Her friends shifted uncomfortably. I took a breath. "I do care. I know you don't believe that, but I do. I never wanted things to be like this between us." Cassandra laughed bitterly. "You took everything from us." "Grandma Vivian gave me what she wanted me to have," I corrected gently. "Just like she gave you what she wanted you to have." Cassandra's eyes filled with tears. "We were her family too." "I know," I said softly, "and she loved you. The video said so, but love isn't the same as entitlement." One of her friends touched her arm, but Cassandra shook her off. "You think you're so much better than us now." I shook my head. "I never thought I was better than you. You thought you were better than me. That was always the problem. I started to walk away, then turned back. The cottage is beautiful. I hope you make good memories there. That's what Grandma would have wanted. I left her standing there, speechless. I don't know if anything I said made a difference. Probably not. But I meant every word. I wasn't angry anymore. I was just tired of carrying their resentment on my shoulders. A year has passed since that day in the lawyer's office. I still live in Grandma Vivian's house. I've hosted Thanksgiving there, inviting friends who've become my chosen family. I've donated $1 million to literacy programs in her name. I've learned to manage my wealth responsibly, investing wisely, and living comfortably, but not extravagantly. I still drive the Honda Accord sometimes, even though I could afford any car I want. It reminds me where I came from, what matters. Victoria, Preston, and Cassandra have gone on with their lives. We don't speak. Maybe someday we will, maybe not. I've made peace with either outcome. I learned that family isn't always blood. It's the people who show up, who see you, who stay. Grandma Vivian saw me when no one else did. And in the end, that changed everything. If this story resonated with you, please share it. You never know who needs to hear it.